It has been several weeks since the shocking and mysterious death of former Minister Nathi Mthethwa in Paris, yet the grief, confusion, and unanswered questions surrounding his demise continue to haunt his family. In a deeply emotional and unexpected development, his elderly father has finally broken his silence, and his words have reverberated across the nation, leaving citizens stunned and demanding answers. In an exclusive and heart-wrenching conversation, the father described the chilling moment he realized that something was gravely wrong, not only with the circumstances of his son's death but also with the way the entire burial was handled. "From the day they told me my son had died, I felt something was not right," he said, his voice trembling with grief. "I could feel it in my bones. The story they told us did not make sense. But I stayed silent because I was afraid. Now I cannot hold it in anymore." According to close family sources, the father had been warned by several high-ranking individuals not to speak publicly about the tragedy. Despite immense pressure and fear, what ultimately compelled him to come forward was what he described as a strange and controlled funeral. The burial, conducted under unusually tight security, was far from a normal family farewell. Military vehicles surrounded the cemetery entrance, armed guards patrolled the perimeter, and the atmosphere felt more akin to a classified operation than a private family ceremony. Several attendees reported that their phones were confiscated before the event began, and cameras were strictly forbidden. "We were told it was a private event," one attendee revealed, "but it didn't feel like a family burial. It felt secretive, like a state operation." Even more bizarre were reports that the casket had been sealed before reaching the family home, and no one, not even Nathim's father, was permitted to open it. When he pleaded to see his son's body one last time, officials allegedly refused, citing security reasons. The father's voice broke as he recounted the moment. "I begged them. I told them, let me see my child before you put him in the ground. But they refused. That broke me. To bury your own son without knowing if it is really him inside that coffin, that is something no father should ever endure." Several relatives confirmed witnessing the father's emotional outburst during the ceremony and admitted that they, too, felt deeply suspicious of the way the funeral was conducted. One cousin claimed that powerful figures within the government seemed desperate to have the burial completed quickly, before too many questions could be asked. "Everything was rushed," the cousin said. "From the transport of the body to the burial itself, nothing happened the way we expected. We were told what to do, where to stand, and when to leave. It was not a normal burial." Journalists who attempted to cover the event reportedly faced significant restrictions. Police blocked access roads, and news crews were ordered to turn off their cameras. A few managed to capture distant footage showing high-profile government officials arriving under heavy escort and leaving immediately after the ceremony. The official cause of Nathim's death was initially reported as a medical emergency in Paris. However, conflicting reports soon emerged, suggesting possible foul play. While French investigators have remained tight-lipped, South African authorities continued to insist that no criminal involvement had occurred. Nathim's father, however, refuses to accept the official narrative. "If my son truly died of natural causes," he asked, "why hide his body? Why rush his burial? Why bring soldiers to a family funeral? They can call me old, but I am not blind. Something terrible happened to my boy." Rumors began circulating that Nathi Mthethwa may have possessed sensitive information linking powerful politicians to secret financial dealings and international contracts. Those close to him claimed that he had been under immense pressure in the weeks leading up to his trip to Paris. "He told me on the phone that he felt unsafe," his father said. "He said, 'Tart, I'll tell you everything when I get back home.' But he never came back." Witnesses described eerie and unexplained moments during the funeral. Some reported hearing whispered arguments among security officials just before the coffin was lowered, while others noticed certain high-ranking political figures appearing tense and avoiding any contact with the family. "It was like they were hiding something," one neighbor recalled. Even the pastor seemed unusually nervous. Everything about that day felt wrong. The most disturbing claim came from a burial worker who reportedly told a journalist off the record that the coffin appeared heavier than usual and had been sealed in a manner he had never seen before. Since the funeral, Nathim's father has refused to attend any government-led memorials or media briefings. Instead, he has vowed to conduct his own search for the truth with the support of independent activists and community leaders. They can threaten me, they can silence me, but I will not stop until I know what really happened, he declared. A father knows when his child's death is not natural. My heart tells me this was not an accident. It was something else. His courageous decision to speak out has reignited public outrage, with many South Africans demanding transparency from both the government and French authorities. Calls are growing louder for the release of the official autopsy report and for a full investigation into how the body was handled from France to South Africa. Social media erupted with questions. Why was the coffin sealed? Why were the family and press kept at a distance? And most importantly, what was Nathim doing in Paris, and who was he meeting before his untimely death? These questions remain unanswered, yet the silence that once surrounded the tragedy has been broken. Nathim's father's emotional interview has touched millions, his words echoing through the country and reigniting painful memories of past political cover-ups. His determination to uncover the truth has made him a symbol of courage in the face of fear and intimidation. Many have praised him for his bravery, while others worry for his safety as he challenges powerful forces who may have much to lose if the truth emerges. What began as a family's private grief has now evolved into a national outcry, demanding accountability and justice. Community leaders and human rights organizations have joined calls for an independent inquiry into Nathim's death, arguing that the secrecy surrounding his funeral and the inconsistencies in the official narrative point to something far deeper and more sinister. If there's nothing to hide, then let the truth be known, one activist said. Journalists have renewed their investigations, attempting to trace Nathim's final movements in Paris and uncover any connections he may have had with international figures or companies linked to government deals. Reports indicate that he was scheduled to meet with foreign investors and political intermediaries just days before his death, yet official travel records remain sealed. In the meantime, the family continues to live with pain and uncertainty. Nathim's father describes sleepless nights filled with questions that no one seems willing to answer. Friends say he spends hours each day at his son's gravesite, speaking to him as if he was still alive. He sits there quietly, sometimes for hours, just staring at the ground, a neighbor said. It's as if he's waiting for the truth to rise from the earth. His words during the interview were haunting, filled with both sorrow and defiance. They thought burying him would bury the truth, he said, but the truth is still alive, and it's coming for them. This haunting declaration has since become a rallying cry across social media, with hashtags demanding justice and transparency trending nationwide. Citizens have begun organizing vigils and protests outside government offices, pressing both French and South African authorities to release full details of their investigations. Public trust in the official narrative has eroded as more inconsistencies come to light. The case has become a symbol of the struggle between ordinary citizens and the political elite, highlighting how fear and silence can be used as tools to control narratives. Yet it also demonstrates how a single voice, driven by love and loss, can awaken a nation. The mystery surrounding Nathim's death has transcended borders, capturing global attention. International observers have begun questioning the diplomatic handling of the case, with some speculating that political pressure may be influencing the investigation. Despite these powerful forces, Nathim's father remains steadfast in his pursuit of truth. They can try to bury it under lies, he said, but truth has a way of finding light. His determination has inspired others to speak out against corruption, secrecy, and the abuse of power that have long plagued the political system. The tragedy of Nathim's death has exposed deep fractures in the institutions meant to protect the people and uphold justice. It has shown how fear and silence can manipulate narratives, but also how human courage and love can pierce through layers of power and secrecy. Whether the truth will ever be fully uncovered remains uncertain. What cannot be denied, however, is the impact of a grieving father's words. His pain has become the conscience of a nation, a reminder that beneath layers of politics and power, human hearts still demand truth, justice, and closure. The story of Nathi Mthethwa's death is no longer only about one man or one family, it has become a national reckoning with moral accountability. As public pressure mounts and new revelations continue to surface, one thing is clear: the silence has been broken, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will not remain hidden forever. The heartbreak, courage, and relentless pursuit of answers by a grieving father have awakened a nation, exposing corruption, secrecy, and abuse of power, while reminding citizens that the human desire for justice cannot be silenced. His unwavering commitment to uncovering the reality behind Nathi's untimely death has galvanized ordinary citizens, activists, and journalists alike, reigniting the call for transparency and accountability, both at home and abroad. Every day that passes, the nation watches, questions, and demands answers, fueled by the image of a father who refuses to accept lies or partial truths. Vigils and protests continue to form, each a testament to the widespread belief that Nathi's death cannot be dismissed as mere misfortune or natural causes. International media has taken notice, reporting on both the strange circumstances of the funeral and the growing public demands for a complete and independent investigation. Analysts and political commentators have debated the possible involvement of high-ranking officials and the hidden financial dealings that may have put Nathi in danger. Yet, amid all the speculation and fear, the father's unwavering presence at the gravesite, his daily visits, and his vocal demands for accountability symbolize an unbroken spirit and an insistence that the world must see the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or dangerous it may be for the powerful. The grief of Nathi Mthethwa's family, particularly the father's, has transformed into a broader fight for justice. Citizens are no longer merely mourning, they are calling for action, transparency, and reforms in governance. Every detail of the unusual funeral, the sealed casket, the high-security presence, and the rushed proceedings is being scrutinized. Each unanswered question adds fuel to the public's suspicion, deepening distrust in both South African and French authorities. The narrative of a simple, natural death has been shattered, replaced by a growing awareness of potential political intrigue, clandestine dealings, and systemic manipulation of information. The father's bravery in breaking decades of imposed silence has become emblematic of the struggle against power abuse, a rallying point for human rights organizations, independent investigators, and ordinary citizens alike. Even as weeks turn into months, the search for truth continues. Friends, neighbors, and activists report that the father spends long hours at the gravesite, often lost in thought, speaking softly to his son, and reflecting on the inconsistencies surrounding his death. His determination to confront the authorities, demand transparency, and question the official narrative has sparked a nationwide conversation about accountability, the fragility of public trust, and the lengths to which powerful figures may go to conceal uncomfortable truths. This pursuit has ignited a wave of activism, compelling journalists to re-examine documents, seek witnesses, and uncover the final days of Nathi's life in Paris. The story of Nathi Mthethwa's death, initially framed as a personal tragedy, has evolved into a broader reflection on governance, secrecy, and public responsibility. Citizens demand answers not just for Nathi, but for the principle that no one, regardless of their status or influence, should be subjected to a system that prioritizes secrecy over justice. Vigils, social media campaigns, and public protests are all indicative of a society unwilling to accept ambiguity when lives, reputations, and potentially dangerous secrets are at stake. Nathi's father, in standing resolute against powerful forces, demonstrates that the pursuit of truth is not only a personal obligation but a societal one, highlighting the role of individual courage in challenging institutional opacity and political intimidation. As the investigation remains ongoing and public scrutiny intensifies, the case has become emblematic of the delicate balance between power, influence, and accountability. International observers have raised questions about the diplomatic protocols and the handling of sensitive political figures abroad, while local communities grapple with the emotional toll and the pervasive fear of speaking out. Nathim's father, however, persists undeterred. His insistence on transparency, coupled with his daily devotion at the gravesite, has transformed grief into advocacy, sorrow into a platform for justice, and silence into a resounding call for accountability that cannot be ignored. The father's courage has resonated deeply across social and traditional media, inspiring thousands to join in demanding a full inquiry into Nathim's death. Public discourse now centers not only on the individual tragedy but also on broader systemic failures that allow secrecy and manipulation to overshadow justice.